Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Connect Your Canadian Career webinar that Success Empowerment Strategies is putting on today. We will start with a brief introduction. You should be seeing on your screen a picture of Shitzel and I. I'm Jenny. I'm on your right with dark hair. So a little bit about myself. I've lived in Canada across different provinces and cities my whole life. I've been an executive in HR and as a business leader for many years in many industries, and I've worked with global talent. One of the most rewarding things about the work I do is the amazing experiences I've had with global talent and teams. I still remember the very first new Canadian person I hired. His name was Sam. He was an engineer coming from Asia. And it's always been a very rewarding experience for me to connect with people who are new to Canada and help them along the process of finding the best career and the best future once they arrive.
And I'm Chitzel. I'm the blonde one, even though blonde is not my real look. This was when I just recently arrived in Canada. So basically, I am an HR professional as well. I've arrived in Canada 12 years ago, and I have had the opportunity to work with a number of expatriates and people coming from abroad as an HR manager and also as a hiring manager as well. Being myself an immigrant, I understand the challenges that for someone that it's new in a country and someone new in Canada can face. So basically, we understand where all of you are now, the ones that are already arrived or the ones that are planning to come soon. We understand the challenges that you can go through when looking for a job or when looking into developing your career in Canada. That's why we decided to put this material together, and we will walk you through in general aspects, key points that you need to keep in mind while you're conducting your job search or developing your career if you're already here. So basically today we will touch on things that you need to know before you begin your job search, how to address the common challenges not only for everyone, but specific for newcomers, and how you better can showcase your experience to Canadian prospect employers.
Also, just to note, there's a chat box. So if you have questions as we go along, please just put those in the chat box and we will answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. So let's start with understanding some things you need to know before you get your search going. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the recruitment process. Our goal here is to help you manage your expectations around what the process entails and how long it takes. Overall, in the recruitment process, there are several steps that take varying degrees of time. So we start with your job search. You're going to research which companies and careers are going to be the best fit for you. And then you move to the application stage. This is where you submit your resume. From there, the employers take on a screening phase where they look at all the resumes and applications that have been submitted, and they decide who they'd like to talk to and get a little bit more information from. Often next, we find the pre-screen step, which is generally a phone call or an email from the recruiter, so that they can gain a bit more information about the candidates. Following that, the selected people will go through one or more interviews. Interviews can take different forms. It may be one meeting with several people. It could be a couple of different meetings with different people or individuals. It just depends on the company's own process on their side. Finally, they move to the selection phase. So if you're chosen, this is when you go through the job offer negotiation process and you discuss your compensation package and all the components that come with the offer. In our experience, this process generally takes 4 to 6 weeks. It can change, but these are good guidelines for you to start with so you have some context around what you can expect in terms of how long your search may take. When we talk about new opportunities in Canada, there's a few places that are very common for searching. One is on LinkedIn, of course. LinkedIn's not just in Canada, but globally. And so there's a lot of not only companies that are recruiting there, but also recruitment agencies that recruit there. Company job boards, so on individual websites for different organizations, they'll post their open positions. Indeed is another website that is very popular for job postings. And then we like to mention that there's some other things, a little bit of thinking outside of the box. There's your school alumni associations, there's professional networks, there's trusted recruitment firms, and there are networking opportunities that are specific to specific industries. So Shitzel's going to give us an example now of how that works.
Yeah, so basically what we want to highlight here is that specific industries have different ways of approaching the recruitment process. And if you're a candidate within the high-tech industry or a graphic designer, most likely there are meetups happening for your industry and your geography. And it's a good practice to keep an eye on those meetups. In my own experience, I had a friend that granted he worked as a software developer, which is in demand in Canada. So basically, after 2 weeks of arriving in Canada, he attended a meetup in which he actually met his employer. And 2 weeks after arriving in Canada with no previous Canadian experience, he was able to secure a job. So the idea here is to keep your mind open and take advantage of every opportunity that you have to showcase your talent and your knowledge. Companies, startups in high tech or in different industries, they have regular meetups because as an employer, I can attest that we are seeking the best talent out there. So we are always, most of the companies are always offering opportunities to meet new people, new candidates, and newcomers to Canada are usually very well welcome. So keep an eye on those opportunities. Keep an eye on your industry. There is a website, meetup.com, in which you will see what type of meetups, and that helps not only for job opportunities, but also to enhance your knowledge and you share experiences and how to with different professionals. So it's a good practice to keep an eye on those networking opportunities, as I said.
The other thing that we want to tell you about is some potential limitations that you may experience if you're applying for similar positions within Canada to those that you've had outside Canada. Generally, there's 3 types of jobs that apply varying degrees of limitations. So, for example, if you are a lawyer in another country, you won't automatically be able to transfer and practice exactly the same in Canada right away. There are some retraining, recertification requirements that may be required depending on where you've come from and what experience and education you already have. Another type is some regulatory bodies. So oftentimes groups like architects and engineers, their education is applicable in Canada, but they need to be within the local regulatory body for the area that they're working in. Finally, there's groups like Shitzel mentioned, software developers, graphic designers. A lot of positions within the high-tech industry don't have any requirements once they're transferred from one location to the next. So those are generally more easily integratable into the workforce. Now, it's important for you to know what the limitations are and what steps you want to take in order to make sure that your training and certification is relevant and recognized, so that you can be clear with employers that you are in process of making sure that's sorted out so that you can move through things much more efficiently.
And as an immigrant myself, I can attest that one of the challenges that most of the newcomers face is how to answer the question, but you don't have a Canadian experience. And for a lot of people, that might be difficult to answer, and that might present a roadblock in how they represent themselves. So basically, what you want to keep in mind when you are in an interview explaining your experience, it's first of all, you need to be very transparent about it. Of course, as a newcomer, no one will expect that you have worked previously in Canada. Sometimes you might have internship experience or study experience, but if you're new, the assumption is that you have not worked in Canada in the past, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just your reality, and that's not something that you feel that you need to feel that it's in your disadvantage. What you want to make sure is that you're basically focused on getting clear on your transferable skills. There are many skills and knowledge that does not pertain to a particular industry or geography that are basic points that you want to highlight when you're talking about your experience. Um, or depending on the industry, if you're in the high tech industry or if you're a graphic designer, of course, you don't need to have a specific geography experience because you're you just need to code, let's say, if you are a software developer. But for others, specific, let's say, sales and marketing, knowing of the specific geography and market might be something that it's critical for that position. That being said, keep your experience transparent. um, Always refer to your transferable skills and the key technical point that is required on that for that position. Most of the time, you don't have the specific language that you can relate to the interviewing. So be present. In Canada, most of the time during the interviewer will explain in general what's the role. So you need to pay attention. You need to be prepared for that interview. You need to have read before the job description so you can use the same terminology that the interviewing is using. So you can actually compare your past experience using the exact same words that the interview is using, so that is not the objective is not to trick them. It's basically to make them understand better your experience. So keeping it focused on your transferable skills, connecting at a language level using the same type of words and terminology.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about how students can transition. And another thing, the same concepts apply in terms of the fact that you don't have a lot of professional experience. So what we need to do is make sure that you have the right transferable skills that you can highlight. So oftentimes things like your experience on projects within teams, your experience as any internships that you've worked, managing multiple priorities, managing multiple deadlines, working as teams, organizing schedules. All of these things are relevant to the professional world, and you should highlight those accordingly. Now we're going to move on and talk about communication and how we can best showcase our experience. How you communicate represents you. Every interaction that you have the opportunity for, you have the ability to make an impression. So we think about networking opportunities, email communications, what you submit on your resume, how you present yourself in your interview. are all opportunities where you can showcase your experience, your skills, but also your attitude, your professionalism, your likability. So keep in mind that please don't worry about your accent. In Canada, we have many, many different kinds of people and cultures. So don't worry that your accent is a limitation. Just be sure that you're concerned about communicating clearly so that people can understand you well. Use the right language and terminology to relay the information you want to share. Canada is a country with many cultures, which is one of the reasons our country is so great. If you come from a country that doesn't have a diverse workforce, it may be a bit surprising to you, but in Canada, you will encounter lots of different people as you go through the hiring process. Younger people, senior people, men, women, it's very diverse. It's important to remain open-minded and be respectful of people's differences, as you would be expecting them to be respectful of you. Additionally, don't downplay your experience because of being worried about intimidating a potential employer. As a business leader, I know smart employers want to hire smart people, and you should be applying for jobs and roles that match your skills and knowledge. Don't downplay your qualifications or experience. However, keep in mind what we talked about earlier with regards to what you will need from certification or regulatory requirements in order to transfer your skills. We all know that skills and experience are still relevant and valid, but you have to take the appropriate steps so that you can integrate properly. When we talk about resumes, we want to make sure, again, we're not hiding our experience, but also please don't assume that your experience is so great that you don't need to integrate appropriately for what the employer needs. By that, what I mean is you need to make sure that your resume is relevant to the job you're applying for. Connect your skills, experience, previous responsibilities, and achievement to the specific needs of the position that you're applying for. Also, I beg of you, make it concise. Shitzel and I have read many, many, many resumes in our career, and I can tell you that it happens far too often when people submit resumes that are far too long with information that aren't relevant to the job. Please avoid that mistake. In interviews, you want to be prepared. Know who you're going to meet. Know how you want to articulate your skills and value. And also know what information you want to take away from the discussion. An interview is a two-way conversation. So you want to genuinely express your value, your skills, and what you bring to the table. But you also want to take the opportunity to ask questions and learn more about the position, the team, and the company that you're interviewing with.
Good. So after this overview of the recruitment and hiring process in Canada, Jenny and I have good news for you. Basically, based on our own experience and what we have witnessed in terms of the newcomers' needs when they're trying to find a job or integrate to the Canadian workforce, and having worked with multiple expatriates and transfers from all over the world, we decided to compile all that knowledge and information into programs that we will be offering to help professionals that are about to arrive or have recently arrived in Canada, walk them through this new path, but with the less stress possible. Basically, our goal is to support you and make this step as easy as possible, and as with the less stress that you can manage, that you can have. We know that at the same time you need to manage multiple aspects when you're new in a country. There are other aspects of your move that you need to take care. We really want you to receive the support you need in this one in particular. So that's why we decided to compile all this information into specific programs that Jenny will outline for you.
So the key things that we found through our experience and our research are that we need to have a thorough process to make sure that you're not only going through the recruitment and hiring process successfully, but you're going through it with the right intention and goals. So as you see here, we've outlined the 6 modules that we teach in this program: identifying your goals and your highest value, which is going to set you up to be successful in the career of your choice; improving your online presence for Canada; building great resumes and cover letters; standing out in interviews; negotiating the best package; and integrating into the Canadian workforce once you've started your new position. Now, we are very aware that everybody has slightly different approaches to how they learn, so we've created 2 courses. One is a self-directed course in which you have the full responsibility to go through the materials and prepare yourself for your process. The other is the full support course. This course enables you to have access to Shitzel and I throughout the process, and it also makes sure that you have support and insight at every stage.